Hello, world, and welcome to the ViBedTime channel. Yeah. Uh, for those of you who are new and been here for the first time, this channel is basically gonna be like a book club. I'm gonna do a lot of read aloud of books, and we can discuss it in the comment section and tell me whether you like my reading or not. It's not very good, but I'm gonna try anyway because I think reading is important, and as a society as a whole, we've kind of gotten away from it. All we do is play video games and go to work, and eat and sleep, and that's about it. We need some reading. We need some education, some stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're gonna do on this channel. Basically, I'm not gonna hold y'all up with a huge long introduction. I'm just gonna get into this book so we can, uh, so you can get an idea of what this channel is gonna be about. The book we're reading today is called The Mediterranean Caper by Clive Cussler. For those of you that don't know anything about Clive Cussler, he writes about a character named Dirt Pitt, who is basically like the underwater sea version of James Bond. It's really good, action packed, you know, whole bunch of foolishness, basically. So hopefully you guys will like it. Um, so let's get into it. I'm just going to do the prologue today to give you a taste of what to look forward to on this channel. And we'll do more books and just start a book club, man. Because reading is fundamental and we need more of that in this society. So without further ado, y'all, here we go. The Mediterranean Caper. Dirt Pit 1. Clive Cussler. Dirt Pit is that rarest of individuals without whom the world could not survive. He is a man of swift, decisive action who lives by his honor, forever standing watch on the front lines in the enduring war between good and evil. As the son of a U.S. Senator, graduate of the Air Force Academy, and Special Projects Director for the United States National Underwater and Marine Agency, NUMA, his courage and cool under fire are matched only by his forceful nature and ferocious determination to do whatever is necessary. Pitts reports directly to Admiral James Sandecker, the cunning commander of NUMA, and is backed up by the tough, streetwise Al Giordino, a childhood friend and partner in undersea adventure for more than 20 years. Prologue. It was oven hot and it was Sunday. In the air traffic tower, the control operator at Brady Air Force Base lit a cigarette from a still glowing butt, propped his stocking feet on top of the portable air conditioner, and waited for something to happen. He was totally bored, and for good reason. Air traffic was slow on Sundays. In fact, it was nearly non existent. Military pilots and their aircraft rarely flew on that day in the Mediterranean theater of operations, particularly since no international political trouble was brewing at the moment. Occasionally, a plane might set down or take off, but it was usually just a quick refueling stop for some VIP who was in a hurry to get to a conference somewhere in Europe or Africa. The control operator scanned the large flight schedule blackboard for the 10th time since he came on duty. There were no departures, and the only estimated time of arrival was at 16:30, almost 5 hours away. He was young, in his early 20s, and strikingly refuted the myth that fair-haired people cannot tan well. Wherever skin showed, it looked like dark walnut laced with strands of platinum blonde hair. The 4 stripes on his sleeve denoted the rank of a staff sergeant. And although the temperature was touching 98 degrees, the armpits of his khaki uniform displayed no damp sweat stains. The collar on his shirt was open and missing a tie, a custom normally allowed at Air Force facilities located in warm atmospheres. He leaned forward and adjusted the louvers of the air conditioner so that the air ran the so that the cool air ran up his legs. The new position seemed to satisfy him, and he smiled at the refreshing tingle. Then, clasping his hand behind his head, he relaxed back, staring at the metal ceiling. The ever present thought of Minneapolis and the girls parading Nicollet Avenue crossed his mind. He counted again the 54 days left to endure before he was routed back to the States. When each day came, it was ceremoniously marked on a small black notebook he carried in his breast pocket. Yawning for perhaps the 20th time, he picked up a pair of binoculars that were sitting on the window ledge and surveyed the parked aircraft that rested on the dark asphalt runway stretching beneath the elevated control tower. The runway laid on the island of Thásos, in the northern part of the Aegean Sea. The island was separated from the Greek Macedonia mainland by 16 miles of water, appropriately called Thásos Strait. The Thásos land mass consisted of 170 square miles of rock, timber, and remnants of classical history dating back to 1000 BC. Brady Field, as generally termed by the base personnel, was constructed under a treaty between the United States and the Greek government in the late 1960s. Except for 10 F-105 Starfire jets, the only other permanently based aircraft were two monstrous C-133 Cargo Master transports that sat like a pair of fat silver whales, glistening in the blazing Aegean sun. The sergeant pointed the binoculars at the dormant aircraft and searched for signs of life. The field was empty. Most of the men were either in the nearby town of Panagia drinking beer, sunbathing on the beach, or napping in the air-cooled barracks. Only a solitary MP guarding the main gate and the constant rotation of the radar antenna at top its cement bunkers offered any form of human presence. He slowly raised the lenses and peered over the azure sea. It was a bright, cloudless day, and he could easily recognize details on the distant Greek mainland. The glasses swung east and gathered in their horizon line where deep blue water met light blue sky. Through the shimmering haze of heat waves, the white speck of a ship resting at anchor came into view. He squinted and adjusted the focus knob to clarify the ship's name on the bow. He could just barely make out the tiny black words, "First Attempt." That's a dumb name, he thought. The significance escaped him. Other markings also darkened the ship's hull. In long, heavy, black lines across the center of the hull were the vertical letters NUMA, which he knew stood for National Underwater Marine Agency. A huge crooked crane stood on the stern of the ship and hung over the water, lifting a round ball-like object from its depths. The sergeant could see men laboring about the crane, and he felt inwardly glad that civilians had to work on a Sunday too. Suddenly, his visual exploration was cut short by a robot-like voice over the intercom. "Hello? Control tower. This is radar. Over." The sergeant laid down the binoculars and flicked the microphone switch. "This is the control tower radar. What's up?" "I've got a contact about 10 miles to the west." "10 miles west?" boomed the sergeant. "That's inland over the island. Your contact is practically on top of us." He turned and looked again at the big lettered blackboard, reassuring himself that no scheduled flights were due. "Next time, let me know sooner." "Beats me where it came from," droned the voice from the radar bunker. "Nothing has shown on the scope in any direction under 100 miles in the last 6 hours." Well, either stay awake down there or get your bleep equipment checked," snapped the sergeant. He released the mic button and grabbed the binoculars. Then he stood up and peered to the west. It was there, a tiny dark dot, flying low over the hills at treetop level. It came slow. no more than 90 miles an hour. For a few moments, it seemed to hang suspended over the ground, and then, almost at once, it began to take on shape. The outlines of the wings and fuselage drew into sharp focus through the binoculars. It was so clear as to be unmistakable. The sergeant gaped in astonishment at the rattly bang engine sound of an old single seat bi-wing airplane, complete with rigid, spooked wheel landing gear, toward to the arid island air. Except for the protruding inline cylinder head, the fuselage followed a streamlined shape that tapered the straight sides at the open cockpit. The great wooden propeller beat the air like an old windmill, pulling the ancient aircraft over the landscape at a tortoise-like airspeed. The fabric covered wings wa- wavered in the wind and showed the early characteristic scallop trailing edge. From the spinner enclosing the propeller hub to the rear tips of the elevators, the entire machine was painted a bright and flamboyant yellow. The sergeant lowered the glasses just as the plane displayed the familiar black Maltese cross markings of a World War I Germany flashed by the control tower. In another circumstance, the sergeant would have probably dropped to the floor if an airplane buzzed the control tower at no more than 5 feet. But his amazement at seeing a very real ghost from the dim skies of the Western Front was too much up for his senses to grasp, and he stood stock still. As the plane passed, the pilot brazenly waved from his cockpit. He was so close that the sergeant could see the features of his face under the faded leather helmet and goggles. The specter from the past was grinning and patting the butts of the twin machine guns mounted on the cowling. Was this some sort of colossal joke? Is the pilot a nutty Greek with a circus? Where did he come from? The sergeant's brain spun with questions, but no answers. Suddenly he became aware of twin blinking spots of light emitting behind the propeller of the plane. Then the glass of the control tower window shattered and disappeared around him. A moment in time stopped, and war came to Brady Field. The pilot of the World War I fighter dipped around the control tower and strafed the sleek modern jet parked lazily on the runway. One by one, the F-105 Starfires were raked and slashed by ancient 8mm bullets that tore into their thin aluminum skin. Three of them bursting into flames as their full tanks of jet fuel ignited. They burnt fiercely, melting the soft asphalt into smoking puddles of tar. Again and again, the bright yellow flying antique soared over the field, spitting a laden stream of destruction. One of the C-133 cargo masters went next. It erupted in a gigantic roar of flames that rose hundreds of feet into the air. In the tower, the sergeant lay on the floor, looking dazedly at the red trail of blood that oozed from his chest. He gently pulled the black notebook from his breast pocket and stared in fascinated surprise at the small, neat hole in the middle of the cover. A dark veil began to circle his eyes, and he shook it off. Then he struggled to his knees and looked around the room. Glittering fragments of broken glass blanketed the floor, the radio equipment, the furniture. In the center of the room, the air conditioner laid upside down like a dead mechanical animal, its legs thrown stiffly in the air and its coolant trickling into the floor from several round punctures. The sergeant dully peered up at the radio. Miraculously, it was untouched. Painfully, he crawled across the floor, slicing his knees and hands on the crystal slivers. He reached the microphone and grasped it tightly, bloodily the black plastic handle. Darkness crowded the sergeant's thoughts. Was this what is the proper procedure, he wondered. What does one say at a time like this? Say something, his mind shouted. Say anything. To all who can hear my voice, mayday, mayday. This is Brady Field. We are under attack by an unidentified aircraft. This is not a drill. I repeat, Brady Field is under attack. Chapter 1. And that is going to be it, y'all. I mean, I could do another chapter, but I just kind of wanted to introduce this story to you guys so you can get a feel of the book we're getting into. So hopefully you liked it. I know I messed up a couple times, but you have to thank the public school systems of America for that. I got nothing else to do with it. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. We're gonna do chapter 1 of this book next week, so uh, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when I drop the next video. That's basically all I got to ask from you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it, like I said, and be sure to stay safe, stay out of trouble, and I'll see you on the other side. I'm out, y'all. Peace.